Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our session today. Cloud-based EC2 Max on AWS, Dropbox perspective on EC2 Max, and Jamf for development and beyond. One little housekeeping item. If you want to ask some questions, go into the app again. You all know where that is. We're nearing the end of day 2. Make sure you're asking those questions. We'll come on up and answer them at the end. Now I'll bring up our speakers, Dave and Sheila. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us here. We're going to be talking through cloud-based EC2 Max and really how that is not just working for customers, but a very specific customer of ours, Dropbox, who's joined us today. So I'm Dave Cederer. I'm a senior specialist solutions architect at AWS, and that's a bit long, but it does mean that I specialize in EC2 Mac instances specifically. So I'm an Apple nerd from also a very long time, as many can attest. So in addition to that, that's absolutely part of my world. I'm going to be joined by Sheila Wakita in a few moments from Dropbox as well to go over what their journey has been in enrolling EC2 Mac instances. So at AWS, a lot of the time, I'd say most of the time, we like to work backwards, really understand what a problem is before sort of coming up with a solution. So what we'd seen in the app development lifecycle was something fairly clear. Simply, developers have a lot to do. Creating apps uses a ton of developer talent, and ideally, that's what you want your developers to be using most of their time for. Apple developers do have additional considerations. You can build, test, sign, and publish only on macOS because Xcode requires macOS in order to have access to this installed base of users. iOS, iPadOS, tvOS, watchOS, and visionOS. All of these can be built using Xcode, and that does require Apple hardware. EC2 Mac is Apple hardware in the cloud, and we've made it to fit these workflows, these continuous integration and continuous deployment workloads. Unboxing Mac Minis, I'm sure that's something that folks in this room know fairly well. Fighting for space in the rack, show of hands, who enjoys, you've enjoyed some time with not a fun time. Just getting InfoSec to understand that there just needs to be a Mac there. And with all of those things taken as one, they're just not development. They're everything but. You want your developers developing, and this does not help them. So AWS does have a good bit of experiences with compute on demand. Over 650 instance types as of this writing, each built to handle different types of processing and lifting. For the purposes of Apple development, we're going to be specifically talking about these. Amazon EC2 Mac instances, AWS's solution to macOS in the cloud. You can start and scale instances in minutes, easily deploy with, that is correct, images. Fast and secure infrastructure. Yes, we're going to be talking about images today. Yes. And fast and secure infrastructure connects these instances to the same as any other instance type, delivering that performance and resiliency in one place. We have 3 types of instance types as of this writing. Launched at first, Mac1.metal was the x86 Mac Mini. Mac2.metal is the M1 Mac Mini from 2020, and Mac2 M2 Pro.metal is the newest, which is an M2 Pro Mac Mini that with 32 gigabytes of RAM. So let's take a look at what one of these is. I've been kind of describing it in vaguish terms and said it's a Mac Mini in the cloud, but let's actually take a look at one. This is an EC2 Mac instance. The green Nitro card near the bottom of the image there, that is connected to the Mac Mini via Thunderbolt. It's providing elastic storage, networking, connectivity to AWS infrastructure, and also a lot of utility for, as you may know, these are not exactly built for hands-off management. So EC2 Mac instances, that requirement of having people on premises and hands-on needed to be addressed in a programmable way. So that is exactly what we had done, and this is something that's actuated with a robot that pushes the button for us to ensure firmware updates go as needed. And I do want to highlight our integration too with a lot of popular open source programs too that'll let us deploy these not only with our own automation, but even connected out. So our customers are really proving this out, judging by the logos on the top here. Maybe the top right one a little bit more so today. Customers of every type, though, from financial, games, makers of entirely new things, Intuit, Pokemon Company, Uber, Pinterest, Flipboard, Dropbox, all leverage EC2 Mac and report they can now spend more of their time focusing on innovating and building better applications for their users. Pokemon has seen 4 times faster builds. Twitch had 50% reductions in fleet sizes. Pinterest with 80% reduction in build failures. These are absolutely real results that we've been seeing our customers proving out. And our partnerships are incredibly important. Once again, just to the right side, Jamf, an incredibly important partner here, and we will be going into a little bit what we've done so far and what we're doing now. I do want to point out HP Anywhere with their Teradici product that allows for secure and compressed audio and video streaming for GUI sessions, PC over IP. Virtu's Anka solution as well for virtualization on demand. That works on both x86 and Apple Silicon as well. And yes, Jamf Pro, leading management for Mac OS. We've definitely heard from you. You want the visibility to every Apple device. I think that'd be ideal. If somebody spins up a cloud instance, I don't think having that be something that's unmanaged is in anyone's best interests. So we've been adding more functionality to Jamf enrollment of EC2 Mac instances since our partnership began. Last year, we presented a workflow that allowed the Jamf agent to execute policies and gather instance information. We also released integration between Amazon Verified Access and Jamf Trust. We'll be talking about that a little bit too tomorrow morning, allowing device attestation information to flow and access to follow. Earlier this year, we released a script called Last Mile, which allows guided MDM enrollment, automating every part up to the user accepting the profile. The script we're watching run right now is in private preview this year. It is an Apple script I wrote to automate enrollment of EC2 Mac instances into MDM with minimal setup and no user intervention. This code does run on all of today's supported versions of Mac OS, past any that are actually useful with the profiles command. It does require some light image preparation before launching the instance, but this is something that we're able to provide some instructions for, and we'll have a link at the very end to where that repo is going to be. To talk more about Jamf and EC2 Mac, here is Sheila Wakita from Dropbox. Sheila.
Thanks, Dave. All right, how is everybody today? So I'm supposed to be the closer. That's really scary, a lot of pressure. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. So my name is Sheila Wakita, and I actually lead developer productivity at Dropbox. And my teams are actually responsible for, and they own, the end-to-end developer experience around the software development lifecycle. And so what that means is we actually provide, can you folks hear me okay? Making sure, okay. So we provide the tools, components, platforms, and frameworks that actually enable developers to do things like code, review, build, validate, and release. So it's the entire cycle. So our ultimate goal is actually to optimize the developer productivity experience and help to accelerate our developers' ability to deliver new features and products for Dropbox. I think we need to scroll. Okay, a little bit. So really quickly, in terms of a show of hands, can folks tell me, show of hands, how many of you folks actually support and run Macs in your data centers? Super fun, right? very challenging. So one of the persons I actually wanted to highlight very quickly, because you're likely going to have questions about the solution that we came up with for Dropbox, is I'm going to highlight one of our very own, one of our engineering managers who leads the developer environments team at Dropbox is Matt Kulka. So Matt, if you could wave and show your hands, very good. All right. So Matt's team was actually responsible for the implementation that I'm going to talk about today. And so if you folks have any questions, those that are remote, please go ahead and submit those questions. And also, don't want to put Matt on the spot, but if you folks want to talk to him after the presentation to ask questions, he will be happy to, sorry, Matt, happy to do that. All right. Okay. So moving right along here. So what are our use cases for Mac at Dropbox? Well, so at Dropbox, we rely really, really heavily on the Mac platform for various critical tasks, as you can see, for builds, testing, and debugging our Mac applications. So virtualization actually plays a really, really pivotal role in ensuring that we have a separation and flexibility of our workloads. We actually leverage virtual machines both on our engineers' laptops as well as in the cloud. We do this for debugging purposes, and within our own continuous integration, or CI, cluster, which automates builds as well as testing. So it's really, really important to note that our CI cluster is actually essential for all of our Mac and iOS application development. And every commit that our developers actually make, it has to be vetted. It has to go through a whole range of macOS versions that our application supports. So one change can actually result in dozens of builds running on VMs from macOS 10.13 to the latest beta release, which most recently is macOS 14. So to underscore the criticality of our need for virtualization, we actually process over 3,500 Mac builds per day. So now let's go ahead and explore our Dropbox journey in how we did this and harnessing the capabilities of AWS EC2 Macs to meet our virtualization requirements. Okay, the Dropbox EC2 Mac journey. So enter EC2 Mac's dramatic pause, the game changer. So our on-premise CI cluster consisted of 2013 Mac Pros, and they became obsolete due to the fact that hardware support deprecation happened with the release of macOS 13 in 2022. So in addition to that, the other thing that happened is VMware also discontinued ESX support for Mac's hardware. So these two particular events were actually kind of catastrophic for us. And so it sent us scrambling to find a workable solution for macOS 13 testing, because we needed to test. So we did what any self-respecting engineering organization would do. We knew that we had that our existing hardware wasn't going to cut it. So what we did, we went to the Apple Store. We ran to the Apple Store, and we actually bought a crate of Mac Minis. And so we overnighted them to our data centers and had them racked up. And so essentially, it was our best yet unmanaged and temporary solution to be able to handle this situation. But it was a workaround. But this workaround actually held. And so until we were able to find a workable solution that was comprehensive enough to replace our situation with VMware. So in terms of the solution. So to permanently address this issue, we actually identified an off-the-shelf solution or application that could be utilized both on the laptops as well as in the cloud. So we chose Parallels. And with Parallels, we went ahead and we started to build automation layers to manage it. And so with this approach, it enabled us to seamlessly actually migrate our workloads from our aging Mac Pro cluster to AWS using EC2 Macs running VMs via Parallels. So unlike the time-consuming process of acquiring and setting up new hardware in our data center, this particular solution actually provides us flexibility as well as agility. So we can quickly now allocate or release hosts in response to changing job loads, and with that ensuring very smooth operations as well as rapid adaptation to demand fluctuations. All right, very exciting. So we're coming to the climax of this. So how has EC2 Mac helped Dropbox? So in summary, Our experience with AWS EC2 Max has provided several key benefits. So 1, scalability and simplified management. So AWS's remarkable scalability, as well as its accessible API, have allowed us to focus on actually running essential jobs rather than dealing with the intricacies of Mac hardware management. So this streamlined approach actually enhances efficiency as well as productivity. Second is workload flexibility. So we can easily adapt our processor architecture mix to actually align with the changing requirements of our workloads over time, optimizing resource allocation. Third, future-proofing. AWS EC2 Max have positioned us for the future. So essentially, they actually offer the flexibility to switch between different instance types as AWS expands its offering. So essentially, ensuring that we stay up to date with the ever-evolving technology. And fourth, cost-efficient replacement. This one was critical for us because essentially we were able to swiftly replace a critical infrastructure component without incurring any substantial upfront cost. That's a big deal. So this was particularly important as the existing infrastructure had reached end of life far sooner than we had expected. So that is our story. And so I'm hoping that folks out there, in terms of hearing our story, can benefit from the things that we had learned. And with that, I guess I turn it over back to you, Dave, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. And yeah, just as far as closing from my side, I do want to make sure resources, we do have a few links up here. Feel free, especially the top right is our a bit of a Mac admin's written repo about EC2 Max specifically. We're going to have more information on this automated device enrollment within the next few days, and that will be posted on a link on that site as well. So I think, but that's as far as we go. It's a big thanks from AWS, and I think we're going to take a look at what kind of questions we have. John?
Do have a couple here. Can this instance be fully managed with Jamf?
That's a wonderful question. I would fully managed is quite a phrase. It's only 2 words, but it means a lot of things. This instance in its state is considered user-initiated enrollment. So this would be something that you would be able to push profiles, you would be able to push policies. It would not have full ADE privileges, though the profile wouldn't necessarily be locked in place. So hopefully that's something makes that a bit clearer. And we've got information more so in documentation too.
Is the EC2 Max setup a one-to-one setup, or can we do multi-session?
So Mac OS is it is possible to run up to 2 virtual machines on an EC2 Mac instance in the same way that you can do so on your local Mac as well. Dropbox, they just mentioned, they use Parallels to accomplish this, and that is typically on anything Mac 2 and higher using the virtualization framework. So you are able to do type 2 virtualization using a decent host of different options, open source options like Tart as well. You can actually just command line spin that right up.
All right, we have a question that might apply to both of you here. Was Xcode Cloud considered by Dropbox? And if so, what are the benefits of using AWS EC2 Max instead?
Can I answer that?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I do want to take the second part of that specifically, though. Can you read that back once more?
Yeah, what are the benefits of AWS EC2 Max instead of Xcode Cloud?
Yes, and that's something that we have seen our customers really proving out. Xcode Cloud is a cool service. We offer flexibility. We offer more. We offer the ability to take that Mac and orchestrate it in exactly the state that you need it. So a lot of the time, if you have assets that are a bit more complex, if you have a workflow that's less than ordinary, EC2 Mac can be something that's more so suited to the task. It can be shaped more, I guess, best way.
And the last question here, how would someone go about creating a training or testing room for education in this particular purpose using EC2 Macs and basic peripherals, monitors, keyboards, mouse? And would that be a viable use case for EC2 Macs?
That's an excellent question. I think we may want to look into that one a little bit more so offline. It's absolutely possible to orchestrate a whole bunch of EC2 Mac instances. There are some specifics when it comes to remote access that we'd want to make clear, specifically having to do with authentication and exactly how you'd want to set that up.
Those are the only questions that we had in the app.
All right, any folks out here? Oh, got one.
Perfect. The question was, is there any documentation on the UIE workflow for EC2 Macs?
Yes, they at the moment the repository is something I can share with you. We'll talk after. It's also going to be linked to on the one on the top right. Got my directions wrong.
Yep. I have a contractor just for 8 hours, and he finished the project and all that stuff. How long I would have to wait in order to shut down?
Question is, have a contractor, they're coming on site for 8 hours. What is the time limit that I have to turn that instance down?
That is an excellent question. There is a provision in the macOS software license agreement that requires you to keep a Mac when it's allocated for a minimum of 24 hours. So there is a 24-hour minimum that you would need to hold on to that for. After that, your billing is by the second. You're able to release that at any point following that 24 hours. Oh, yeah. Yes. So
question about images.
Yes, I said images, and I didn't say too much more about images, and I can absolutely do that. AMIs, Amazon Machine Images, are what are used to boot an EC2 Mac instance. So it's possible to take a point-in-time snapshot of what your setup is, and take that and launch new instances from it. So that's sort of a single template image that all the new Macs can be yeah. And with that, naturally there's a little something where MDM enrollment doesn't carry over because it is switching hardware. It's hence our automation.
Any other questions? All right, we'd like to thank Dave and Sheila for our content today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.